I'm standing here on the traditional lands of the Mohawk and the Mohican peoples to tell you about our Mohawk Watershed Grant Program with the Nature Conservancy and the Department of Environmental Conservation. You can see behind me there's a big beautiful culvert and traffic running behind us. The purpose of this project is to connect the north-south corridors from the Catskills, the larger park to the south, to the Adirondacks in the north. And we have an opportunity with funding and partnership with the DEC and the Nature Conservancy to address how wildlife moves through this landscape. This is a big challenge for wildlife. And so one of the ways that we can address this is actually looking at culvert passage as a way to facilitate wildlife movement safely. It doesn't come into contact with vehicles, but can also find its magic mate on the other side that has genes that are different than its own. And then the other focus of this project too is because of climate change. So as the climate shifts, wildlife are going to need to shift with it. And we need to make sure that there are corridors and pathways so that wildlife can move.
My big thing is climate change. That's why I decided to protect my land. My land is in this corridor that we're talking about here today. And to be honest, this is like a dream come true for me. I've been thinking about the Adirondacks to Catskills connection since I first became active on conservation, and thought about the fact that my place, Strawberry Fields, is halfway in between the Catskills and the Adirondacks. Given the way climate is going, there's going to be a lot of species that are going to want to go north, and they could be going through my property and others, and I welcome that. It's very important for us to protect land in this area, particularly so that it can become a corridor of safety for species that need to get out of the heat. And it's something that everybody can do if they wish to. If you're hearing this and you have acreage that you love and you're protecting, it would be a great time to contact Mohawk Hudson Land Conservancy and talk about protecting it.
So MHLC's role in this project is to be the on-the-ground land trust. So we're working with willing landowners and the public to make them aware of this project, to understand the importance of their backyard and the fact that it is a significant linkage for wildlife between the Catskills and the Adirondack Park. The work that's being done through this grant is actually looking at culverts like these to assess them, to determine whether or not they need to be retrofitted with upgrades to allow for wildlife movement, or if they're okay as they are, like this one that's already been upgraded. We have 2 technicians that are traveling corridors of Route 5, 5S, and the Thruway to look at each of the culverts to see how wildlife can pass through, and then we're working with the Thruway Authority and DOT in the long run to be able to assess and upgrade culverts as needed to facilitate wildlife movement. MHLC's role will be then to work with landowners on either sides of those culverts to work on conservation goals with landowners to allow for space for the wildlife to be able to funnel to these crossing sites so they're not forced up onto the roads, but can use these culverts that have been upgraded and help facilitate their movement.